Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a long time coming, but the Kuudra revamp has finally happened and it's on the Alpha Network, and there's a lot to go over, so let's start talking about it immediately. Starting off, if I actually click on the Kuudra guy in the first place in the lobby, you can see that there is now more tiers of the boss enabled. Now, pretty much all tiers are enabled except for Infernal. You can go all the way up to Fiery, and the boss does change as you keep going up the tiers. It does get significantly harder. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but the most important thing is the perk shop. There is now a bunch of perks and basically classes within the game. As you can see, there's a support class, a specialist, crowd control, and cannoneer. My initial thoughts on these is that most of them are actually really good. I was playing a lot of the specialist class, and it was incredibly helpful for the first phase of the boss. For the first phase, at least on the lowest tier of the boss, you have to basically fish up supplies from the lava sea and bring it over to the middle of the map. Getting steady hands is incredibly important for this, makes it so much faster and so much better. Crowd control was also fairly nice. I didn't notice it too much as a mage player, but people were saying as a berserker it is much better. Bonus damage is nice, the mini nuke is pretty awesome, sweeping edge, freezing touch, protective aura, all great overall perks to make you a lot stronger and make Kuudra less hype dominated. Cannoneers now have their own specific menu. Hallelujah, they look amazing. All of the perks are very good, and now the cannons do a lot more damage than they used to, meaning that cannoneer players are going to have a blast, especially on the lower tiers of the boss. Moving on to the final class, support, I actually noticed a few things that I didn't really like about it, notably that most of the buffs here do not necessarily heal or mana buff yourself. As you can see, there's mana aura, you can get 50% mana a second. That seems really cool, but it doesn't actually improve your mana regen, it improves other people's around you. I think this one's kind of weak, I'm not gonna lie. The reason why I'm saying this is mainly because you kind of are going to have to hug your allies if you're going to play this class super effectively. Maybe on the higher floors that's going to be super nice, especially with people with much better gear than myself, and I think it would be better on these higher floors, but for lower floors I would much rather have another cannoneer or another specialist. A support on the lower floors doesn't really seem that great, although I will say that reviving dead players, increasing the revive time, or reducing it rather, and making things a little bit better in that regard are pretty nice. Moving on to the boss fight itself, and I think personally it's incredibly fun. At the lowest possible tier, there is a lot going on. A lot more enemies than you're used to before with the old Kuudra boss. The arena is much flatter, and your main goal is to collect the supplies, bring them to the middle, and then build a ballista. After you do that, the boss will shoot out a bunch of orbs that you have to hit back at it. Incredibly fun to play through. In my opinion, maybe it takes slightly too long, and I think the lowest difficulty is maybe a tad too hard at the moment, at least for lower level players. However, I do understand what they're doing with this, and it is much better than the old version. A lot more fun to play through, a lot more fun to actually participate in, and honestly, it feels like not just hype players will be able to succeed here. I could see archers having an amazing time in this boss fight. All the animations are beautiful. Some of the best looking stuff that I've seen in Hypixel really does look like an actually worked on and well polished boss. I think the tentacles are the best part, the fact that they slam down into the middle of the arena, doing a decent amount of damage to everyone involved. Really nice. Also, they destroy the ballista, so keep that in mind. It's just, wonderfully put together. Excellent job there, at least on the lower tiers. Some of the higher tiers have a little bit more involved. You have to go inside Kuudra's stomach and, mine out parts of it in order to succeed. Really crazy, wacky sort of stuff that I'm really excited to see in Skyblock. Really interesting boss fight. Something unlike anything we've seen before, not even in Floor 7. Moving on to the section where I give my thoughts, I think that this boss fight overall is really excellent. I love the classes. I think it works really well all together. Maybe the support class can use some changes. I would like to see it actually buff the player who's using the class as well. Maybe not as much as the teammates. Maybe instead of a 50% mana percentage gain, it's a 10% or 20%. That would be really cool, especially for mage players. It would give them something else to pick other than the crowd control or specialist class. But overall, really well done. My two biggest problems with the boss currently are ones that were there already beforehand and ones that are fairly easy to fix. Number one, it doesn't really feel like we have much of a reason to grind out Kuudra still. The boss rewards are frankly still pretty bad. They're not even changed from the old version of the boss, at least on the lower floors. Maybe the higher floors are a little bit better in terms of gaining essence, but I really would like to see a buff to the amount of essence you get, especially considering the fact that the fight now takes twice as long, maybe 3 times as long for some groups, and you're still getting the same 8 essence. It's pitiful, it's really bad, and I think it really needs a change. Number 2, I really do not understand the reason behind locking the higher tiers of Kuudra behind a very high level of reputation in the factions if the factions don't give you keys. It would be really cool if the factions gave you many higher level keys, so you have a reason to keep on grinding the boss, a reason to keep on doing it. But right now, as it stands, Kuudra is, it requires a lot to do, and it doesn't give you enough rewards, at least in my opinion, especially if you don't have enough keys to, keep it going. Really feels like a lot of grind for very little payoff at the moment, but that is something they can very easily tweak, change, do whatever to. No big deal on that front. My second major issue is once again with damage and the amount of health that the Kuudra has and the difficulty of the fight. I think for early game players or for people just in the Crimson Isle, it's a little much. In my opinion, it would be cool if the basic tier served as an introductory to Kuudra and people who just launched into the Crimson Isle were able to do it. Also, the fact that it doesn't have Party Finder is a little bit crazy to me. Would really like to see that added. But overall, excellent stuff. Really like the way the boss is going right now, just needs a few tweaks. Overall, while the boss fight itself is much improved from its former state, I do need a few things need changing still, especially on the gear side, in order to make it truly worth it to continue playing Kuudra. I really liked my time with it, I just need a reason to keep grinding it. Really great stuff from the admins. This is actually like the first time I've been like super hyped about a boss in a while. I just think that with a few more changes, things will get a lot better, and eventually we'll have something that the community can be very happy with. Makes me feel like I'm playing through Floor 7 again, and just starting my first boss, I was super hyped. So, really excellent job. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and this little mini guide. I'm really excited. Tell me how you feel in the comments down below. And, my name is Derailious. Make sure you join my Discord down below for some giveaways and updates. And look to the future, fellas, because I will see you then. Hopefully, Kuudra gives a few more Crimson Essence in the future.